Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aylin, and today we are going to be doing the end of the year book tag. So this is a tag that I typically do every single year. Same with the mid-year book freakout tag, but I missed it this year because I was moving, so I didn't really have the time or the mental capacity to film it this year. Unfortunately, I'm actually really sad about it, but we are making time for the end of the year book tag, even if it is very much at the end of the year. This tag was created by Ariel over at Ariel Bissett. There are 6 questions, and we're just kind of gonna close out the year a little bit. You're typically supposed to do this just before the end of the year, around like September, so I am a bit late, but I'm very excited nonetheless, so let's just dive into these questions. Question number 1 is, are there any books that you still need to finish by the end of the year? If you didn't know, the way that I read, I essentially read a lot of books at one time because I am a massive mood reader. There are a lot of instances where I will pick something up and then I will set it down, and it's not always a DNF. Very rarely is it a genuine DNF where I have no intention of coming back to it. It's just not what I'm in the mood for. And you don't always know that until you get like midway through a book and you're like, I'm not feeling this. I feel like I don't ever see very many other creators do that in like reading vlogs and stuff. So I don't think I'm alone, but I feel kind of alone with that. Anyway, the answer to this question is always yes. There are essentially 1,000,001 books that I'll pick up and get partway through and then put down for some reason. So I don't tend to close out the year with no books that I'm in the middle of, which I am perfectly okay with. I know that that drives some people crazy, but it doesn't really bother me, to be honest. I just decided to go with 2 books for this question to keep it a little bit short and sweet, even though I rambled on about that answer, so I'm sorry. The first one that came to mind was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I read It Happened One Summer earlier this year and really loved it. I know this one doesn't have as great reviews as its predecessor does, but I'm still really excited. I really enjoy Hannah and Fox's dynamic from book 1. I am actually like 70 something pages in. I have picked up the audiobook to help me kind of get through this because I am in a physical reading slump, and I also currently work an overnight job, so listening to audiobooks just makes that a lot easier. I do plan to get back to this one very soon. The second one I started literally at the beginning of the year and haven't touched it since, but I'm over 100 pages in. 134 pages in. House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I own the first and the second book in this series and I still haven't picked them up. I don't know why. Oh, maybe I just need to restart it, but I want to finish this. I know I'm going to love it. I really enjoy Sarah J. Maas's writing and her stories, so I know I'm going to really enjoy this one. I would ideally like to finish this by the end of the year. Question number 2 is, do you have any autumnal books to help you transition into the latter half of the year? And I don't ever have like a set answer for this question. However, I do have a book, typically because I am a mood reader, that I like want to read to kind of help me get in the mood for fall. And this year it is Swamp Sniper by Jana DeLeon. This is the 3rd book in the Misfortune series, which is a cozy mystery series set in Sinful, Louisiana. But it's essentially about this girl who is dropped in Sinful, Louisiana because she was/is a CIA agent, but she has a bounty on her head from a mission gone awry previously, so she needs to kind of hide out and play it safe in like a witness protection program of sorts. So she's hiding out in this super small town. A bunch of hijinks ensues. She teams up with these 2 older ladies. It's very fun. I love it. And I haven't read one of these books also since January, I believe. So I desperately need to read book 3. And this morning I actually downloaded/bought the next 10 books in the series. I'll be marathoning these, but just the small town vibes and everything like that, I feel like would be a perfect book to help transition me into the fall season. That's what it's called. Question number 3 is, do you have a new release that you're still waiting for? And actually yesterday, the one like release that I was really anticipating and waiting for was published, and that was A Very Merry Bromance by Lyssa Kay Adams. This is the 5th and I think final book in the Bromance book club series. No, it's not the final book. She's publishing, I think, the novels that they're using as like the handbooks in this series. The premise of this series as a whole is that these men are really struggling with the women in their life, and so they have a bromance book club where they read romance novels. It's the most wealthy men in Nashville, Tennessee, and they're reading romance novels to help them with their love lives. So some of them are second chance romances, some of them are getting together with the women for the first time, some of them are enemies to lovers. It's an all-around great experience, and I have loved all but one of these books in the series, but I love all of the romances. It was just like other elements in that book that I didn't love. So the fact that we are getting a holiday one makes me so excited. And I'm really excited about these characters because they're characters that I've been like waiting for a story to get, and their perspectives and everything, because you do get a lot of the male perspective and then a little bit of the female perspective. I'm very excited. I think that this one is going to be so freaking good. I also highly recommend the audiobooks for that series. If you enjoy audiobooks, I think that they're really well done. Question number 4 is, what are 3 books that are super high priority on your TBR to get through by the end of the year? And of course, I have so many, but since the question said 3, I will only pick 3. The first one is actually a massive volume of manga that I have been saying I would read for quite a while, so the fact that I haven't read it yet is a little bit embarrassing, and that is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. I have read, I believe, about half of his books at this point, and I really enjoy his storytelling and his art as well, so I just need to read Uzumaki, especially because I've heard that this is the best one of his books, and I'm hoping that I will enjoy this one. So far, Gyo has been my favorite, but I also really enjoyed, like I said, so many of his other books, so I have high hopes for this one, and I think that that will set me up well for the rest of the reading that I do intend to play out for the rest of the year. The second book that I really want to read before 2022 is over is one of my most anticipated releases, and I believe I've told this story before, but I actually didn't know what this book was until like 2 weeks before it was released or something like that. I thought it was a bind up of things, and then I found out it was a completely separate story of something completely different. So I feel like I have a weird feeling about this book, but I also feel like I'm going to love it, and that is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I thought it was going to be the bind up of her feminist novellas because all of her feminist novellas were being released up to this point, like one a month. So I thought that this was going to be the bind up because it was the month after all 3 of them were published. No, it's a completely different story than all of those. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I read the synopsis and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a new like full-length Ali Hazelwood novel. And if you're new here, I really loved The Love Hypothesis last year. It was one of my favorite books of last year. I know I am not alone in that. That is not a unique opinion. And I know that this one has gotten a lot of mixed reviews. But listen, maybe this is unpopular. That's totally fine. But I kind of like the recycled story where it's like you're essentially reading the same thing, but you switch a couple plot points so that it's different. I like that because I want to reread The Love Hypothesis, but not know what's going to happen. This could be my fix. You know what I'm saying? When you want to re-experience something for the first time, that's how I view this, and I don't even care. And the last one that I absolutely have to read before 2022 is over, As Good as Dead, because that is what I will be to all of you, I'm sure, if I do not read this year. So many people, I feel like, have found my channel through my love of the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and I haven't like asked, but if I had to guess, I think that Good Girl's Guide series is something that people heavily associate with me just because I've done videos for the first 2, and the video that I did on the first book is literally my second most viewed video of all time. So I feel like that's not an outlandish assumption for me to infer. But yes, there will be a video on this. I promise I'm gonna read it. I'm very excited. I actually just rewatched my video on the second one to kind of refresh like my thoughts and what happened and everything like that in anticipation for reading this very soon, and it got me really excited and hyped for this series all over again. So question number 5 was definitely one that had me thinking for a little bit, and that is there a book that you think could completely shock you and become a favorite of the year? I have 2 answers for this. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm in a physical reading slump. I'm also just in a slump. I'm kind of in a funk with life right now, so reading has definitely taken a seat, so like I'm not super excited about anything right now. But there are 2 books that I think could potentially really shock me. other than some of the ones that I've already listed because I don't want to regurgitate my answers. I would have to say The Winners by Frederick Bachman, which is the third and I believe final book in the Beartown trilogy. Beartown is about a small hockey town where these people are obsessed with hockey, and one of the star hockey players on that team in a small town ends up raping like the team's manager's daughter. It kind of divides the town, and Frederick Bachman just in general writes stories about life and the human experience and all of the different perspectives. And I feel like if you're looking for ways to become more empathetic or understand empathy, these are really great books, because if I'm being 100% honest, I struggle with being empathetic every once in a while, just because sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, how can someone have this opinion? Like, I literally don't understand. And there are characters in the story like that where you do get this perspective and you're still like, you are wrong. There are also characters where like at first you don't agree with them and then you hear a little bit more about what they have to say and you're like, okay, I still don't necessarily agree with you, but hearing how you got there makes you not as terrible of a human being as I initially thought you were. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about the people who think that like rape is fine. I just want to make that abundantly clear. But I feel like you guys know what I mean, where people do something stupid and you're just like, how did you, I cannot fathom how you thought that this was a good idea. And then they talk a little bit and you're like, all right, you're still a bumbling idiot, but whatever, you're a human as well. That was a very lengthy way to say The Winners by Frederick Bachman, because I love Frederick Bachman, and Anxious People I read earlier this year and it's one of my favorites. The other book that I feel like could potentially become a favorite is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I really, really loved The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and this one deals with some different themes than that one did. I loved everything about that one thematically, and the prose, it was all just so beautiful. I loved that book. I feel like this one, dealing with death and mortality and love, it just fits the season of life that I'm in. I'm very excited. I think this one's gonna be good. TJ Klune has such a way with words, and I'm really, really excited to read this one. So I think I'm going to listen to this one on audiobook, because The House in the Cerulean Sea was such an amazing listening experience that I don't want to consume this story literally any other way. And I think that's why I've honestly put off reading it for so long. It's because I didn't have access to the audiobook, but now I have an Audible subscription, so I can pretty much listen to whatever I want. And question number 6 is, have you started making any reading plans for 2023? And the answer is yes and no, like kind of, in the way that I have a bunch of secret TBR ideas that I really want to do, and some of them will happen this year and some of them I will just have to save for next year, but I don't know like which ones are going to be happening when. I have an idea for some of them happening this year, but the other ones that are a little bit longer, it will just depend on my mood on what gets read first type of thing. But I mostly just have goals and like secret TBRs set, so I'm doing a whole separate I do it every year pretty much, my like 2020 blank reading goals for the year, so that will be a separate video that you guys get. But just generally speaking, I want to read more romance, I want to read more thrillers, and I want to read more fantasy. That is what is predominantly on my shelves, but I just want to do a better job of diversifying genres, diversifying authors. That is always a goal of mine, is to diversify my reading more and more. Those are my only plans, and they're not like super strict plans. That is it for the end of the year tag. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. If you have done this tag in video format, awesome, link it down below. I would love to come watch. Or if you just want to answer the questions down below, again, awesome. And if you need someone to tag you, consider yourself tagged. I was not tagged to do this video. I just think it's a fun video to do and I like these questions. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I really hope to see you all in my next video. Bye guys.